Some loneliness is loud, some is silent, but the kind no one talks about is the one that lives inside people who seem perfectly fine. Before you dive into this story, hit subscribe so you never miss the stories that speak the truths we all feel but rarely say out loud. Loneliness has many shapes, but the kind no one talks about is the one that grows quietly inside people who laugh the loudest, and this is exactly the kind Nora carried inside her chest every single day even though the world thought she had everything anyone could ever want. Friends who adored her, a job everyone admired, a life that looked beautifully arranged from the outside like a perfectly scripted movie scene. But stories shown to the world are never the whole truth, and Nora's truth lived in the quiet moments, like when she walked home at night after dinner with friends, hearing their voices fade behind her while an emptiness she couldn't explain settled into her ribs like winter air. It wasn't the loneliness of being alone, she was rarely alone. It was the loneliness of not being seen, the loneliness of smiling because she should, talking because she had to, existing in spaces where everyone knew her name but no one knew her heart. It began many years ago, though she never admitted it even to herself. She grew up learning to be the strong one, the dependable one, the one who didn't burden others with heavy thoughts. She learned early that people clapped for strength but turned away from struggle, so she perfected her role and played it so well that no one questioned it. And that was how her loneliness became invisible, even to the people who loved her. She woke up each day filling her schedule, saying yes out of habit because being busy made loneliness easier to ignore. But late at night when the world was quiet and fatigue stripped her defenses, she would lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of unspoken feelings pressing against her chest like heavy stones. She wondered if anyone else felt this way, surrounded yet disconnected, understood yet unseen, cared for yet somehow emotionally starving, because it felt like a secret that shouldn't exist but somehow did. The turning point came unexpectedly one rainy evening when Nora found herself sitting at a cafe, watching strangers talk, laugh, or tap on their laptops, and she suddenly felt a swell of emotion rise within her, not because of sadness but because of clarity. She realized she had no one she could call. Not really, not for the moments when she didn't want to be strong, not for the moments when she felt like collapsing, not for the moments when she needed someone to simply say, "You don't have to pretend with me." And that realization shattered her more than any heartbreak ever had. For the first time, she accepted that her loneliness wasn't caused by a lack of people around her but by the absence of connection deeper than the one she performed for the world. That night, she went home without an umbrella, letting the rain soak her like a baptism, giving her permission to feel everything she had suppressed for years. She entered her apartment, stood in the hallway dripping water, and finally let herself cry. Not the soft, polite tears she sometimes allowed, but the real, raw tears that came from the part of her she never shared with anyone. After that night, the world didn't magically change, but something inside her did. She began small, not pretending everything was fine every time someone asked, not forcing herself to say yes to everything, not smiling when her heart was tired. She tried opening up to one person, a friend she trusted, though her voice trembled when she said, "I've been struggling more than I show." And to her surprise, her friend didn't turn away. They listened, really, listened. And that simple act cracked the wall she had built so carefully for so long. Nora realized that loneliness grew not because our lives lacked people, but because we lack spaces where we are allowed to be real. So she started creating those spaces, slowly, carefully. She asked honest questions, not just the routine, "How are you?" but the real ones like, "How are you really doing?" And people responded, because it turned out she wasn't the only one carrying invisible loneliness. Many of the people she admired, the strong ones, the busy ones, the always smiling ones, they all carried quiet, private battles too. And in sharing their truths, they formed connections that felt warm, grounding, human. Nora didn't stop feeling lonely overnight. There were still days when the emptiness returned, days when she felt disconnected, days when she wanted to retreat into silence. But she no longer judged herself for it. She no longer thought loneliness meant failure. She understood that loneliness was a signal, a whisper from the soul asking for connection, not performance. Asking for presence, not perfection. And one evening months later, she found herself walking home after dinner with friends again, but this time when the laughter faded behind her, she didn't feel that sharp emptiness. Instead, she felt something soft, a quiet comfort in knowing she had begun to build a life where she could be seen. She unlocked her door, stepped inside, and sat by the window watching the city lights flicker like small galaxies. She realized that loneliness had taught her something precious, that being known is a greater gift than being admired, that being understood is deeper than being surrounded, and that being real, even a little, is the cure to the kind of loneliness no one talks about. If this story touched even one hidden part of you, don't let it end here. Share it, comment your thoughts, and follow for more stories that speak to your soul, heal what hurts, and remind you that you're never truly alone.